Unlock your innate abilities for health. Core conversations. Core conversations.
Welcome to the Core Conversations podcast by Ampelis, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon, and I'll be your host.
Welcome to another episode of Core Conversations, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon, and today we have we're getting back into the swing of things because we've had a little bit of a hiatus while we've really just focused on getting the Core 7 product ready and available, and making sure people are having a good experience with not only the product but the ecosystem and the communication and everything else that's happening around it. It's been quite an undertaking, but we're grateful to be back now in the swing of things and recording more conversations that we hope are helpful for those of you who listen. Today, we're going to have an interesting conversation, I think, with our guest, Rogan Taylor, who's here with us. Rogan and his wife, Linda, have spent a lifetime, really at this point, helping thousands of people recover from whether it's injury related to, an accident, or recovery from surgery, or just dealing with trying to get better and deal with chronic pain or other issues. But literally thousands of people in the community over the course of a 4 decades long career, probably about 4 decades. Is that right?
44 years.
44 years as a physical therapist. And the first time I remember meeting Rogan, it was my parents sent me to see you with a back injury I had from playing soccer. And I remember leaving feeling like that was really nice. That was really nice. That really helped. And then I started to notice, I started to see you on sidelines because we had started a little volleyball team at our high school, and your sons were outstanding volleyball players. Yeah. And unfortunately, they always crushed us the few times that we played them. But I would see you there with your camera taking photos. So I started to see Rogan places. And since just had a number of different intersections between family members of mine who've known you and your family. And now, of course, Lon, who's been on the podcast, is a dear friend of yours. And so I've been able to see a little bit inside, behind the curtain of who you are and who Linda is, and some of the amazing things that you've done professionally, but also in your personal life. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Because of the good that I've seen you do, not just, in your practice, but I think the person that I see behind that maybe your patients, I'll get to see some of that, but knowing kind of your philosophy of how you're really trying to heal and help and serve people in a holistic way. So I'm excited to try to draw out some of those lessons learned and patterns in this conversation today.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing
good.
this.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
So we're going to talk today about patterns, like we said, that you've maybe identified over the course of your career as you've worked with people trying to really repair their physical functioning, their bodies, the connection to that and nutrition. You and Linda have invested in our company, in Core 7, and talk about why that was something that was compelling to you and you felt was important, and as well as some of the things, just because I mentioned of just a few things about maybe some of your hobbies with photography, and I see you I see you biking and skiing and going to theater, and I see you spending time with family, but I'd love to also talk about just the role that some of those things play in health, as you've seen different patients and those patterns.
Sounds good.
So let's start there. So 44-year long career serving patients. I'd love to just start by asking you to reflect on maybe patterns that you've observed over that time, and what may be some of the things that people most frequently struggle with as they're trying to recover or keep their body strong and functioning well. So maybe just big picture reflections as you think back on your career.
So many people come in, usually it's an injury. Sometimes it's just pain that there was no injury, but they're hurting and they don't know why. I mean, maybe they had the accident or whatever, but a lot of people have pain. They don't know why. And so part of what I do is really drilling down of trying to get to the bottom foundation of the problem, not just treat the symptoms, not just to make them feel better. I want to change them for life. I don't ever want to see them in the clinic again is my goal. We're going to teach them principles that can help them in their life and to get over these problems. And it all comes down to exercise and health and diet. We'll talk about that. We can drill into that. But
what do you think as you think about, the many people you've seen, I think so many of us, when we go to see a practitioner, a physical therapist or a doctor, we go and we want them to just fix our problems.
Yeah.
But what are some of those things that you've seen people just struggle to just take ownership of so they can have that kind of outcome?
Yeah. Probably the biggest thing is I always give them homework. They got to do exercises. And it's funny because they're like, now, how long do I need to do these? And my answer is, for the next 80 years, I want you doing them every day. After that, you can do whatever you want, but you got to get in the habit, a good pattern of something that's going to bring health to your life.
Yeah.
And you can't, this isn't a short-term thing, from diet to exercise, stretching, all of those things.
Yeah. There's probably not many good shortcuts. It's like, it takes effort and discipline. And
I tell them consistency is your best friend. You have to do these every day. You can't do them once a week, every day, twice a day on some of them, and you're going to have a great result. So,
yeah, I have one of my sons is dealing with some back issues. He's got some early signs of like degenerative disc disorder, or his discs in the spine in a couple places just look like they're gone in the imaging. And so we've got some core exercises, and he'll do them for a couple of days, and then he stops, and then he complains about pain. I'm like, have you been doing your exercises?
That's my big question is, are you doing your exercises?
Yeah.
Oh, I tried. And I'm like, what does tried mean? Yeah. We don't try. We got to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, so, and then learning how to help people be motivated has probably been a large part of what you've had to learn how to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so once they start to feel the success of, it's like, how long do you want to feel this good or better? And then it just leads into the conversation of diet and,
all of the things,
everything that goes into feeling good. So,
okay. So I kind of jumped into that big picture pattern, but I would love to hear maybe just a little bit about your background. So what inspired you to go down this path of in your career and wanting to help people in this way? And
first I'll say I remember my mother doing a few plant-based meals, and she was really into health and everything we could do. And so I kind of grew up kind of bent that way of, what else can we do? I remember drinking cayenne pepper when you had a cold, and that maybe it's not a thing, but maybe it helped. I don't know. And so I was kind of bent that way. But after my mission, I was trying to figure out what I want to do. I knew I wanted to do something in health.
And you served, for a 2-year mission for a church.
Yeah, in Korea, Busan mission. And loved that. It was so great. Another conversation maybe, but so while I was on my mission, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, her brother had brain cancer. And they took him back to Boston. They did a surgery. They said, take him home and let him die. He was all shriveled up and he'd been in bed for so long. But they had a physical therapist come into their home and work with him. And my girlfriend at the time, saw that. And she said, why don't you look into physical therapy? Because I thought, that doctor road is too long and I don't ever want to work at a desk, And so I looked into it. I went and volunteered at a couple places, and I'm like, this is it. This is my calling. I got to do this. And so I went and talked to the counselor at BYU, and I think his job was to deter people. And he kind of like pushed me off. Yeah. He kind of pushed me off, and I walked out that door and I said, to heck with you. I'm going down this road. And I think we're supposed to kind of enroll in the major. And I saw what classes, I just started taking them and I didn't look back. So it's been awesome for me. So, so got into physical therapy school. I went in the Army program, which was a huge blessing. In the Army, they don't take very many people, but so I was lucky to get in. But the doctors in the Army that were so few that they allow physical therapists to do what we call primary evaluation, which means you sprain your ankle, you don't have to go to the doctor and have them send you for an x-ray and then send you to physical therapy.
You could be the first line.
I'm first line. And so we got really good at diagnosing and assessing different kinds of injuries. You need an x-ray? I send you for an x-ray. It comes back. I can see it's broken. The radiologist reads it. And so that really gave me a leg up, because the laws at the time in the civilian world was you have to see the doctor first. And so 2 years before I got out of the Army, Utah changed their law that you didn't need to see a doctor anymore. So I come back to Utah. Everybody's still in the same mode. You know,
You
the
still
physical
think you have to go
therapists,
see your doctor.
they don't have any, the therapists don't have any experience in diagnosing and doing the assessments and making decisions on their own. They get a script from the doctor, do this, this, and this. And so I jumped in and just started seeing people. I got a lot of referrals. You know, I went to doctors and said, I know you're sending to other people. I'm the new guy. Just send me the guys who the other guys didn't get better. And it didn't take them very long to think, we sent them here, they didn't get better. We sent them here, they're getting better. Everybody's happy. And I just got busy really quick. So, long story short, I grew my business into 5 clinics all along the way, training and mentoring young therapists to do what I do as best they can. And it's been super fun. That's a lot of what I'm doing now.
Has your approach or philosophy changed at all since you started, or maybe just how has that grown and matured since you started and you came out and you maybe thought this is how you're going to do things, but maybe you've been surprised to realize that you do a lot more of this? Or
my foundation that gave me success is I was trained by osteopaths at Michigan State School of Osteopathy, and the treatment approach is so sound and so good that that's never varied. And that's been my success
the whole time.
Yes. On top of that, I really got into diet after that. When my wife and I first got married, I read a study that linked red meat to breast cancer. And I went and said, why don't we just not eat red meat? I'm not interested in you having breast cancer. And she's like, okay. And, her grandfather and my grandfather were both cattle ranchers.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of hard because we'd be at family things where they're like, have a piece of roast. And we're like, oh, we're okay, And so we learned to fill our plates with everything else and not have room for the meat, at certain functions.
People might not notice as much.
Yeah. But, we came out and told everybody eventually. And my parents were fine. And about 7 years after I did that, I didn't think my parents would ever change. But I had them read the China study, which I sold 48 cases of to patients.
Of books?
Of the China
heavens.
study book. And so my dad read it and he came back and said, why wouldn't I do this? And I'm like, do it. Why wouldn't you do it? And they did it. And my dad lived to be 99 and 11 months. And
Wow.
I credit a lot of that. My mom was 93 when she died from a slip and fall, broke bones in both legs on a hard landing. But anyway, I think it changed their lives where they were healthy to the end. My parents came to my clinic 2 or 3 times a week and worked out all these years. My father worked out the Tuesday before he died. The Friday he died, he was on his way down to work out when he slipped and fell.
Oh my heavens.
And
As a
we think
99-year-old man.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call him 100 because he was 11 months
Yeah.
into his 100th year, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it was such a blessing. And they were such great examples. They were rock stars in my clinic. Everybody's like, there's an old lady back there doing pull-ups. And I'm like, that's probably my mom. But everybody knew him. My dad was a World War II vet and loved, people would always ask him about that. He wrote a book. And anyway,
Hmm.
Yeah.
So they joined you on that journey,
Yeah.
and then you raised your children
All my children
plant-based diet
grew
as
up
well.
that way. Yeah. Four of them were born at the time our youngest grew up. We were already doing it.
Hmm.
And they've all stuck to it. Their spouses are on board mostly. And the grandkids are growing up, 22 grandkids growing up that way. And it's pretty awesome. Our get-togethers, our daughters have become great plant-based cooks,
Hmm.
and our meals they're awesome.
So, and we'll get more into some of this stuff, but what, if any, barriers, was there a learning curve as you started that?
For ourselves?
Yeah.
Well, we started with the red meat, and then I just started reading more about it, and everything I read just said you should be all plant-based. I went back and read the Word of Wisdom,
Which is scripture in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's a code of health teaching, and we call it the Word of Wisdom.
Yeah. And everybody wants to cling to the word, eat it sparingly, but I clung to, it is pleasing unto me that you do not eat it.
Hmm.
That's where I want to be.
Hmm.
If I want to please the Lord, I can do that.
Hmm.
And it all aligned. I used to think, I grew up in the 60s when cigarette smoking was all over the place. And finally, they came out and said, oh, smoking is not good for you. And I thought, we've known that for 150 years. And I went back to the being plant-based. It's like, this has been here. It's right before us. And it just made a lot of sense, and it aligned with science for me. And so we never looked back.
And we know that there's, some of the statistics we've often talked about, 90% of adults in the United States aren't getting as many vegetables as they ought to.
Yeah.
88% aren't getting as many fruits as they ought to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's a big gap.
It's one of the things I've used with patients through the years is, when my kids grew up, maybe they used to say, like in grade school, eat 5 to stay alive, 5 fruits or vegetables a day. And that was a big challenge for some people. We've since found out that it's somewhere between 9 and 15 different fruits and vegetables. So I asked my patients, what did you have for the last 24 hours? What'd you have for breakfast? What'd you have for lunch? What'd you have for dinner? They go through, and unbelievably, sometimes there's not even one vegetable in there. And the way these kids are growing up right now, it's, Cocoa Puffs for breakfast, it's pizza for lunch, and it's a hamburger for dinner with French fries. And it's like, we have a serious problem. And no wonder things from mental health to obesity to all kinds of problems, anxiety. I wonder about autism. I think it has to be related.
I would assume so too.
And
I think there have been some connections to sugar and other things.
Yeah. So we have a huge problem. And I just know that it's been my calling in my clinic to talk to those who are open to it. I've had guys that say, I don't care. I'm going to eat what I want. And when the big heart attack comes, I'm gone and I'm fine with it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, I'll let your grandkids know, and it's kind of sad. I've told several guys who have been very successful. I said, your wife's second husband is going to love you. It seems kind of bad, but it's true. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
Right. Sadly.
How do you, so we largely influenced by you, we for almost 9 years were, I wouldn't say we were 100, we were probably like 90% plant-based, because we would, social events or whatever, where people had made burgers, we would have a burger. Right. But when we cooked at home, it was all plant-based. Yeah. And then over the recent years, you start to hear these different people talking about, they'll introduce different thoughts, like some people are going to be big on keto diets for this reason or that, with mental health or cancer, and others are going to suggest whatever other variation. And there's to say, if you need clean meat. So, how do you think about that? Because you probably have had this conversation more than most people, the merits of these different diets, and some who even say, no, I'm doing this really intentionally, but I am going to eat meat, but only clean meats. But how do you have that conversation in a respectful way?
There's so many different aspects of this, right? So first of all, what is in meat that we can't get from a better source? I don't think anything. Vitamin B12 is one that I do supplement.
You supplement.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing. Another, have you ever heard of heterocyclic amines?
Mm-mm.
Heterocyclic amines is a class of carcinogens. There's about 30 of them. They develop when you cook meat. The higher the temperature, the more there are. And I'm super concerned about barbecuing because it's high temperature. Anything that's charred or darkened, it has a high level of heterocyclic amines. These are cancer-causing diseases. And look around. About half the people have cancer.
Cancer
right?
is everywhere.
Yeah. And so I just said to myself that there's nothing worth it for me to eat those. And just, I think when people really learn, I don't want to be eating that. I'm not interested in cancer, and a whole host of other things. But for me, we can talk about it, but what's in meat that I can't get from a better source? And I think there's a lot of compromise. I think there's a lot of big agribusiness about, promoting meats. And, even within the church, they own farms. And it's like, we don't want to hurt members who are raising animals and that's their livelihood. I get that. But, I make the choices for me. I encourage people to make their own decisions. I just want them to learn. You can't make great decisions unless you learn what's the deal with this, So, yeah.
It seems like, because I've read a lot about this over the last maybe 3 or 4 years specific, maybe 5 or 6 years since we had an addiction recovery business, as you know. And it felt like I would read these things. It's like they were more like condition specific articles, be like for cancer, there's a lot that says plant-based diets are going to be the best to avoid these different cancers. And then I'd read something about different mental health issues and it's like, no, ketogenic diet is going to be the best for this. But it always felt like they were kind of boxed in, like focused on this one condition rather than longevity or other issues. But I think at a minimum, hopefully people who are listening to this, the takeaway hopefully is almost all of us need to eat more plant-based foods.
That's the whole thing. You want to eat meat, fine.
Yeah.
But you got to be getting all these other nutrients, 9 to 15 different fruits or vegetables every day. It's such a wide variety of nutrients. And when we get into Core 7, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
It solves a lot of the problem.
And for many people, that feels overwhelming, which is part of why
it is overwhelming. Yeah. It's overwhelming for me still. Yeah. I mean, we're trying to eat so many different plants. I asked, so patients I've talked to about says, how many fruits and vegetables have you eaten in the last 24 hours? And they're like,
they're
5.
Embarrassed.
And then, and I'm like, I'm trying to get 20, 25,
Yeah.
So make a game out of it.
Well, maybe just say a word on this little tool, because you showed earlier today this tool that you created.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool. Maybe just talk about what you're developing there, because I think that's really an interesting thing for people.
Yeah. If you go to corenutritioncheck.com, so we're going to check your nutrition. This is a way for you to find out where are you on your nutrition, or your children. Even bigger concern is the children, right? And so you put in the things you've eaten for the last 24 hours, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between snacks. And of course, the better information you put in, the better you're going to get out of it. But it'll analyze all the 20 nutrients that the government gives RDAs for. But guess what? There's so many different phytonutrients and things that we're not getting, probiotics, things that we need every day that we're not getting or not being measured or told you have to have so much of this and that. And so it's kind of work to do it. But once you kind of get onto it, things that you got to include, it's not that bad. Yeah.
It was cool. I hadn't seen it obviously until this morning. I saw it.
Yeah.
And fortunately I had the last 24 hours were pretty good. So I didn't feel embarrassed to do it while we were sharing the screen.
Yeah.
And it came with a good score, but even on a day where I ate pretty well.
You're a good eater.
And I still noticed.
Yeah, you still have some deficiencies.
Yeah.
And then if you go down on the website, it'll tell you what your gaps are. What are you missing every day? And then kind of shows you what core can do for you. So
I think it's such a cool idea because obviously the first place for most of us to change is the first step in change is knowledge and understanding
exactly
where there's gaps and letting that be a motivational thing for us to say, okay, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
And that was maybe 3 minutes and I got this whole really cool report, that was pretty insightful.
Yeah. And so really that's what I've been trying to do with my patients, but I just made this thing through AI help me make it. And it's like, it's a pretty cool tool that gives you a lot of information where before I'm just counting vegetables. I'm just trying to get them to eat better stuff,
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because you start to think about, just that one illustration, how knowledge workers, man, AI is changing the game. So, I mean, people who do physical manipulation and things like you doing, I think there's a long time before, robots can do that.
Right.
But the knowledge base of like even what you used to go see a physician or a dietitian for, you can use these tools like that
it's
and have really great knowledge, maybe even better knowledge because it has infinite access to the latest, best research and it's going to be the recall is going to be perfect.
Yeah. And it's specific to you today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Let's start today. Let's improve.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we try to have a couple patterns for people who listen to this. So they, we're helping them not just stay at this high philosophical level, but get into both actual stories of people who've made changes in their life. And then also maybe some myth busting type conversations.
Okay.
Maybe we could start with just some stories. If you could tell us maybe about if there's anybody that comes to mind, a patient, a family member who's been successful in coming in, dealing with a problem of some sort, and they've successfully navigated that change to be, have change that really lasts. Are there any stories that come to mind?
Yeah, we had a few. I had a patient, I'd actually worked on his feet years ago and he came back for some back pain. And he had just been to the doctor and had his blood work done, and everything was off, high cholesterol, everything, blood sugar. And he just looked at me, he goes, "You're working on my back, but what more can I do?" I said, "Let's talk about diet." And it just opened the door. And he still jokes about me. It's like, you caught me at a bad moment.
He was vulnerable.
Yeah. But really he was primed. But I got him just researching. Here's what you got to study. Go study this. Let's talk about it. Anyway, he came back and says, "I can do the plant-based thing." He says, "Give me some good recipes." So I gave him a lot of good recipes, and he'd come back and goes, "This is awesome," And he's changed his life, lost a lot of weight, and he's 81 years old today and still active and doing everything. So anyway, that was a big success. I had this lady who she was probably over 100 pounds overweight. I mean, diabetes, just everything was bad. And so I just, I can't even remember what we were treating her for, probably spine or something. But we have a lot of time to talk when I'm stretching them and working them. And so I said, "What about your diet? What are you doing?" And it was bad, So I kind of went through the same thing we've talked about. And she said, "I'm going to do it." And over the course of the next year, probably, she lost 100 pounds. And, it just changed her life. But you know what? The most interesting thing she told me, it wasn't that her health was that much better. She says, "People look me in the face now." She said,
wow.
"People treated me like wallpaper, like I wasn't there. In the grocery store, they wouldn't even look at her. But she said, people talk to me. People look at me." And it was just a thing for me. It's like, man, I got to go out of my way to be sure to touch these people, reach out to them. And so, you learn things along the way in your practice and talking with people. And I always try to find a way to connect with them and, just something we have in common. That's us, it's you and me, but this is us. And, I see him on the street. We have this connection. And then you are in this circle, then you can influence them. And somebody told me the number one thing people change is they hear something from somebody they trust,
Hmm.
you know? And so I try to be that person in my life in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
from faith to health.
Hmm.
So,
And you probably are in a unique position as people come to you they come to you seeking your expertise, and that kind of initial, act of trust to let you bend them and twist them and whatever,
yeah.
probably opens the door for, allowing
yeah.
trust in other areas
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Oh, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not just practicing physical therapy. I'm looking at their whole life. And some of them are a mess, and it's like, why are you living with this guy? There's a better path for you. Or, some are interested in faith, things we talk about, or whatever challenges they have, let's talk about it, And, physical therapists have to have a minor in psychology.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. To be accepted. And
Is that that's like a industry standard?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, at least I think it still is. It was when I was there, but anyway, not that it super prepared me to talk to people, but from just the life experiences, you find ways to help people. You need a mechanic, I got a guy. Whatever you need, let's talk about it.
Well, those kind of stories those are paydays, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah.
When you have people like that have made changes.
Mm-hmm. I've told so many people about it, more than several times. A gal come in and she says, "You treated me 10 years ago," and working on her. She goes, "Oh, by the way, I read that book. It changed our lives." And I'm like, "Oh, good." I didn't even know, but people change their lives when they learn about it. So,
how cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's jump to a couple. So staying on this theme, maybe with a plant-based diet, a couple myth busting things. So common thing people will say about it is it's really hard to get enough protein.
The question is, where do you get your protein? Right? Well, I'm like, well, where does protein come from? And they're like, well, from meat. And I'm like, well, where do cows get protein? They eat plants. Gorillas eat plants. Horses eat plants. They have big muscles. You don't need meat to have muscles. And so all plants are made from protein. Some have more concentrated protein, beans, legumes, lentils, but everything has protein in it. And several studies have shown vegetarian, vegans, plant-based people usually have enough protein. But in the same study, they researched carnivores. Do they get enough fiber?
Oh, interesting. And
nobody gets enough fiber.
Yeah.
And so, we got to come together and get carnivores eating at least more plants, more fiber. Fiber fuels your whole gut biome, and it's so important, and people aren't getting it.
That was something that when we started, our experience for 9+ years or 8+ years, that was my biggest concern going in. Is like, can we get enough protein? And then you educate yourself and you realize that, no, there's protein everywhere.
Yeah.
That Game Changers documentary that, again, you may have recommended, which is really compelling to watch. That was the takeaway for me. That thing about, you see these big, strong, successful athletes, and one of them makes that comment. He's like, well, where does the cow get his protein?
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. How about, what do people commonly, I don't know if there's a good answer for this, but what do people commonly mess up? If they say, hey, I want to try this plant-based approach to eating, where are the common fail points for people?
They try to fall into kind of plant-based junk, right? They think they can eat.
I can now have just donuts and bagels and whatever because it's not meat.
Yeah. Or, a veggie burger and French fries.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're not getting it. We need different colors of veggies and fruits. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just think they're not eating meat where they're not eating for nutrition.
They're getting low quality calories, even if they're not animal based.
And frequently overly prepared,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of this highly processed stuff could qualify as a part of a plant-based
Right.
diet, but you're getting junk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to say whole food plant-based. So real foods, eat an apple, eat, the broccoli, just go to the store. It's funny, we go to the store and it's all full of produce and people are like, man, you're doing well there. So
It was when we did our addiction recovery work, I think going into it, I thought we had to be so sophisticated about diet. And we were, like had a very pro recovery diet in terms of sequencing of things and how we would change things. But at the end of the day, as people would leave, it kind of boiled down to eat less sugar, eat more plants, and try to get everything, whenever you eat it, get it as close to the source from which it was created as possible.
Yeah.
And not going through some kind of change process that processes it.
Yeah.
And if you follow those three things, you get pretty far down the path.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, people just aren't it's so, everybody's so busy. It's all about convenience. We're going out the door here, grab this piece of pizza, and it does take a little time to prepare. Whenever we make a meal, we do it 2 or 3 times the size and we freeze it or whatever, soups or things that we can store and have leftovers. And it's like, sometimes things taste better a few days after they have great spices in them.
So, again, I hope people walk away from this feeling like, okay, maybe there's something there and I should probably do something with it. Maybe it's I introduce more plants in my diet. Maybe I go all the way to plant-based diets. But, if people are sitting on the fence, like what advice would you give them if they're thinking about this conversation where they're hearing these anecdotes and stories of people who've had great outcomes? There's some research that suggests this is a really good thing if you want to avoid cancers and if you want to, optimize your health span and other things like that. But maybe they're on the fence because it feels too complicated for their family. It feels too overwhelming for them to make that switch. Like, how do you counsel people about it?
Number one thing I always say is go study it yourself. With the internet today and AI, there's a lot of great nutrition science out there. I like Dr. Greger's nutritionfacts.org. He's the only one in his little videos that he puts out that has the study, and he lists the studies. This is the best science that I've found. And so as you look at other sources, you got to look at the resources. There's a lot of bad studies out there, but anyway, study it out and then start slow. We start with red meat, then we eliminated all other meats, but fish. We ate fish for a while. Then we got rid of fish. Then we tried to get rid of all dairy, and pretty much we don't buy dairy, but if we're out occasionally, I don't mind a little dairy, and I can't pick it out of the soup or out of
the cheese garnish is on there already or whatever.
Yeah, in a salad or something. And so I don't mind a little of that, but that's kind of my line. And my other rule is if I'm in Europe, I can eat gelato.
Of course.
You got to live, right?
Oh, man. Twice a day, I think.
Yeah.
It's, I hope people listening to this, whether they go all in on that or not, or they feel like, hey, I'm just going to try to eat cleaner and introduce more vegetables and more fruits. I hope at least there's some kind of, commitment to consistency and discipline around some choice of a healthier kind of diet, whether you're saying, hey, I don't think we can get rid of meats totally, but let's at least try to make it cleaner meat.
Right.
Or maybe we can, let's just do meat on Sunday, or let's do, but create some kind of pattern that moves them down this path, because I think not many of us are lacking for intake, the things that we get through meat. We're lacking things we get through food, through plants. Yeah,
exactly. And, for a lot of people that have kids, I want them to think about their kids' nutrition because honestly, kids, even some of my own grandkids fight eating, they're still plant-based, but they don't like certain veggies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we take broccoli and put it in the food processor where it's like sawdust, and we spread it on a pizza or just get it in where they can't pick it out, And if they want to eat, they're going to eat it. And so you find ways to get those nutritious things to your kids and yourselves.
Have you ever encountered somebody who you've had a conversation like this with, and they kind of dismiss it and they think, well, I exercise a lot. I'm like, I'm good because I'm active enough that I don't need to worry about refining my diet and nutrition.
Right.
Have you ever, I don't know if that's been a thing.
I know a lot of people like that. They just, I'm good with exercise. I exercise a lot. But how many times have you heard in the news, like this runner that was so fit just died of a heart attack all of a sudden? It's like, it's like you have to fuel your car, not just with gasoline. You got to do oil and you got to do the antifreeze. You know, you have to fuel all the parts that you need for it to work right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like the lady who went to her car stopped working, they towed it in and they were going to check the oil and nothing came out. She's like, did you ever put oil in your car? And she's like, no, I just put gas in it. I don't need it. I didn't think it needed oil. Yeah. But you got to fuel every aspect of your body's function. Mm. And so exercise, absolutely necessary. But just exercise is not going to get you there. Mm. Yeah.
That's in our little tagline for the podcast. We talk about how we need to fuel, use, and rest our bodies to really unlock their innate ability for health, for physical and mental health.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can get so far by just being great on exercise and still eating donuts and pizza all the time. But if you want to optimize your lifespan, or health span is a better term, I guess, and avoid cancer and avoid these other issues, it's not something you can really ignore.
Yeah. Well, I think 8 of the top 10 leading causes of death are all diet related.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I mean, heart disease, number 1, cancer, diabetes
metabolic
is
disease.
up there.
Yep.
Yeah. All the metabolic diseases, diabetes. And so there's a lot of ways to die, but guess what? They're all cured by the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a pretty good path to go down.
Let's jump to what made you feel interested in the work that was happening with the company and Core 7 and this journey we've been on now. You know, it's been 18 months or more than that at this point, 2 years of searching and formulating and sourcing and all that's gone into that. It's been a complicated process, but what was it that made you feel like, hey, there's something important here that's worth supporting and being involved in?
When you guys had the Addiction Recovery Center, Lon asked me to be kind of on an advisory board because he knew my passion for it. And I just know it's tied into a lot of the mental health stuff. Yep. I didn't have the research. I hadn't really taken time to research it, but it only makes sense. And so when we're talking about doing better nutrition, I'm like, this is so great. And you saw a lot of the results.
Yeah, huge outcomes.
And so as I've struggled with trying to get people to eat all the things and how difficult it is to get the wide variety of things. And, some of them don't maybe taste that great, but you just get them in, And so when I saw this Core 7, I'm like, this is the answer. This is the simple answer. We got the hard answer here, but this is a simple answer to get all of these things in a drink every morning. I mean, can we make it any simpler?
Like an insurance policy, like regardless of what now happens for the rest of the day, I've covered these bases.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you can, you still got to get your fiber, you got to get your protein. You still have to eat well, but these phytonutrients, the probiotics, it's there. It's there. And there's nothing better. And the way it's all organic and, plant-based, no synthetics, that's what I love.
And you've been exposed, because I know you've been pretty progressive in looking for things like this.
Yeah.
You've tried different products and things. So maybe just in your mind, how does this stand out from a lot of these other things that you've used yourself that have been good products, or you've seen?
I had one I used for a long time and actually still have some and use it. But this goes beyond, I think it's just a wider breadth of nutrients than what is in what I was using. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we noticed such great success as you were part of seeing it, but with the addiction recovery work, how people's energy and sleep or even pain would start to improve even within 30 days when they were in our care, like residential setting.
Yeah.
And we were controlling what they ate and the sugars that they didn't eat anymore and all these things, how quickly things started to improve. And then some of the, really intense IV supplementation we would do. And then they would leave, and all these principles, we had handouts and guides and meal plans and everything else that they would leave with, and compliance would go like that.
Yeah.
Though.
It's hard to do, especially on your own.
Yeah.
Or even if you have a supportive family who doesn't quite get it either.
Right. And even with a nutritionist, like we gave them access to a nutritionist when they left, and functional medicine doctor and everything.
Yeah.
And compliance would still do this, whether it was because of cost or just complexity or whatever else. But that's one of the things that I've been so excited about. As you said, it's like, no matter what else happens now, after, throughout the day, I'm going to cover a really broad array of needs for my body to get what it needs to function.
Yeah.
And both the minerals and the vitamins, but you hit on the breadth, and a lot of the functional ingredients are the things that people notice the immediate difference from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Whether they're the functional mushrooms or the probiotics or the saffron or the ashwagandha or whatever else that's going to help them sleep and with their mood.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really powerful things that do make a discernible difference.
Oh yeah. I just recently in my clinic, several people are starting to use it. And just yesterday, a gal came and said, and she's quite overweight and struggled with a lot of things, but she says, this is it. This is the one for me. And she says, I'm already noticing the difference. And she says, she's tried all these other things. And she's like, wow, this is it. Yeah.
And that's for us, we're still small. We're hoping that we get to be, impacting many more thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
But those are the paydays, like these earlier stories you shared where you get emotional talking about them, because it's like you work so hard on projects to try to, it makes me emotional a little bit.
Right.
You try to make a difference, and you sacrifice and you wait and you have ideas and you research, and then you get people that come back and say, I've looked forever for something to help me sleep, and I'm finally not waking up 3 times at night.
Yeah.
And I have so much more energy to be a better mom because of that. And it's like, oh, that's
when you can change someone's life for the better, there's no better feeling. That's why I still work. I sold my business. I don't need to work.
Right.
But I love every day. I saw 33 patients yesterday, and it's like, everyone is like, I love this.
Yeah.
They're like, why do you do it? And I'm like, for you.
I'd love to talk about, because I get to see a little bit of the, you're now farther down your career than I am, then you get to do more fun things than I get to do right now because of, you've worked hard and created those opportunities. But whether it's, heli skiing adventures or biking or friendships that you cultivate and have things that you do regularly with, you're actively involved in the church, obviously with family, those relationships are healthy. What have you observed about just those types of things and how those contribute to a person's health and ability to recover and stay healthy?
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I got to start with myself. Exactly. And so first of all, anyway, I've always just thought I got to live every day to its fullest. And sometimes it's not every day, but every quarter, I got to go do something fun. I'm going to travel somewhere. And so we started traveling and seeing the world. And, I took my kids to Disneyland once, and I'm like, we're going to go see the world, and my kids have been to Russia and China and all over Europe and South America. And I want them to see what the world's like. And so, and then, from travel to, I love creativity. And so I have my own little small portion where I try to be creative, but I look at what people can do from dance to singing to songwriting to performing. And so I love live
theater and performance.
So, we buy tickets to hell, we buy it to the Eccles, to the Ruth, to BYU. I go to all kind of concerts. I just love that. I love to see what people can do. And it, I think it's given me a broad connection with my patients. I had this little gal in there, and I told her I'd been to Lady Gaga concert and and Taylor Swift, and it just made this connection because she was a big Taylor Swift fan, and she's like, "You like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, look at her. She writes songs, she performs them, she sings, she produces. She's got it all, you know." And people may or may not like her, but you can't argue with her creativity,
Right.
you know. And so anyway, I find ways to connect with people, and so I read tons of books. So for people, the other one is connection, right? So I've just found myself collecting. One of my friends said, "You collect friends," because I have a tennis group. I have a heli skiing group and travel groups, and and there's some overlap. And I had this one guy. I invited him heli skiing one time, and he saw this camaraderie we have because it was his first time. He goes, "You collect friends." He says, "I've never had friends like this." And there's a need, I think, for people to have connection with people, and it's healing. It's well-being for people, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
We've looked at a lot of different statistics about people who report being lonely. We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, right.
And the self-reported number of people that you would call a close friend, and you see over the last 15 years how that has declined to where,
Right.
On average, teenagers today will report on average having something like one person they would consider a close friend, where 15, 20 years ago it was something like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think those things do all contribute to our health. There's
Yeah.
no question that they do, and how the feelings that come, and either the absence of different neurotransmitters that fire because you don't have that connection, like, oxytocin's triggered when you actually look at somebody physically in the eye, or you touch them.
Yeah.
And you don't get it through a screen, and you don't get it. And that's a thing that makes you feel joy, and it gives you hope, and it makes you more likely to engage in exercise because you feel better, and all the things. And so
it's one of the main pillars of preventing Alzheimer's is to have social connections with people. Just hugely important.
And I know there's some interesting research. I was trying to find a couple notes earlier, even like with physical recovery, even, some of these people who identify have some source of meaning and purpose in their life that they get maybe through friendship or through hobbies or the arts or recreation that's really healthy. Those things not only are good because they activate and stimulate things in our bodies, but they also intrinsically give us something to work for and hope for.
Right.
And so people get better outcomes recovering from cancer. They get better outcomes recovering from surgery when they've got relationships or they've got hobbies and other things.
Yeah.
And so that's a real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we were talking before the show started, before this recording started, about you and your own, you've had your own set of injuries in the last couple of years from accidents, but I mean, you bounce right back. And I don't know how much of that is due to the fact that you want to go heli skiing next year and you got to work hard, or
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I fractured my scapula on a dirt bike crash. And I mean, I'm back skiing in 2 months after surgery.
It's amazing.
And I had full range of motion. It wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be, but it was strong enough. And you can't keep me in a box,
Well, and you think about the conversation we've had here in the last hour or so, and your body is probably more resilient than most people your age because of how you eat.
Right.
And how you're active, and you stayed active by having interesting hobbies and friendships that with whom you go and are active with. And those things all contribute to, something happens. You do have an accident, you do fall, but you recover better because your body's more capable of recovering.
I know it's a factor. The whole diet thing is in my recovery and in my wellness. I'm rarely sick or I've had problems where, a lot of my friends, I mean, a couple have died. In fact, one guy who died of colon cancer, when he was diagnosed, he said, "I should have listened to you 15 years ago." And, he felt bad, but that's like, everybody listen, you can avoid these things.
So. Yeah. And even, I think of a lot of the reasons people come to see you, they're dealing with pain and they're trying to recover. And man, I think I've learned more in the last 2 years than I anticipated knowing about the inner workings of the body and inflammation and how,
Right.
again, what you're eating and a lot of things even in Core 7 and how those, they're not like pharmaceutical grade anti-inflammatory things, but they're systemic anti-inflammatory things. And if you're keeping inflammation at bay, your pain's going to be more manageable. You're going to recover better. And so what you're eating, and in many cases, if you need to supplement, it will help. If you're listening to this saying like, man, my knee, I just can't get it better. What role has nutrition played? I hope people are asking that question. And what role should it play?
Mm-hmm.
If I start eating differently, is that going to help my physical recovery from whatever it is that's bothering me?
Yeah,
Because there is a connection.
exactly.
Okay. So at this stage of your career, you've kind of said this, but I'm going to ask it again. Why are you still working? Because, you could be doing more trips to Europe or whatever else.
Yeah, I could, but I've talked to my wife about this, and she says, you're at the peak of your career. No one knows more in this valley than you about health. And it's like, why wouldn't I share that? I've talked about going on a mission for our church. And I've had several people say, you are on a mission. You keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. I had another lady, she goes to the temple and says, maybe I could work in the temple. She goes, you're doing work for the living. You keep doing it, And so I just feel like this is my calling. I can do it. And as long as my body lets me keep doing it, I think I'll do it. I don't know, for a long time. Even if I got down to one day, I'm working 3 days a week now. If
your grandkids, they're kind of now, you've got grandkids that are in their early 20, almost 20, maybe your oldest grandkids are probably 19, 20.
Yeah, we have 2 missionaries that are 20.
Yeah. So, and then you've got a whole crew that's younger than that.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
22 and
22
one on the way.
Okay. So they're all going to come into over the next 10, 15 years, they're going to start figuring out their patterns of living and health. What is maybe one piece of advice that you would give is to these grandkids that are going to, it's hard to give one.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't limit to one.
Yeah. But, if you think about that, like what's the most important thing you would impart to a kid or a grandkid or a parent that they should impart to their kid?
Well, what I did with my own kids, I didn't just say, we're going to eat this way. I said, here's all these books I've read. And they'd come home and say, hey, I got to do this research project. What should I do? And I'm like, look at these books. You go research diet. And so learn about it. Make your decisions based on knowledge. Don't, in everything in life, research it, make decisions based on knowledge, not just what someone said, research it, get the best sources you can and make your own decisions. And I think for nutrition, for a lot of things, I'm always, if you travel with me, we get up in the morning, we stretch. I got all the heli skiing guys stretching. We're sailing down the Danube on top of a boat. We're all doing yoga. I have everybody in our group stretching before we go ride bikes. And so, stretching is the single most thing that will keep you young. I mean, combined with diet. I think it's overlooked. A lot of people are into yoga and they get it, but people want to go to the gym, they want to lift weights, and they want to do cardio. You feel like
I've got 30 minutes, I've got 45 minutes, and I got to lift hard or I got to run hard or something.
Yeah. And that's what leads to a lot of injury over time. Your joints, everything's stiff, and it does wear and tear on your knees and hips. You got to have them replaced. And so that's, and my grandkids know when they come to our house, we get up in the morning, we stretch. So anyway, diet and exercise, get it right. You're going to have a good life.
And what you said about knowledge and like gaining knowledge and making informed decisions, I think that's increasingly important in our day and age of like sound bites that circulate on social media and other places where you get a little bit of this or a little bit of that and it seems credible and somebody presents it authoritatively. And it's really hard because it can sound really compelling.
They can make anything sound good.
Yeah.
Any product. With AI, even fake stuff, they make it sound good. And so, we have to be a little more discerning in our research and searching for what's important in life.
And maybe that's maybe the blessing and curse of AI, right? AI can cause us all to think we're experts, and sometimes it gives you things that are set you down a path that is maybe not completely informed because it kind of affirming what you want to hear.
Right.
But at the same time, like if you learn how to use it well, you can go kind of validate things or gain knowledge or find truth.
Yeah, it's a great tool. But because I know what I know, especially about diet, I'll talking to AI and I said, I don't think this is right. And here's why. And they go, oh, good catch, and they make mistakes. They're not always perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So maybe we'd like to call it ideas in action as well. And it's kind of a related question to what we just asked, but for somebody who's listening today and they're feeling like there's a lot of nuggets in here, I probably need to read some things. I need to stretch. I could consider plant-based eating. What would you suggest is just like going from not doing anything to where do I start on this journey towards better health through diet, nutrition, through what's a practical tip to put some kind of
I think
action?
it's a little bit of self-assessment. The tool that I developed is the beginning. I'm going to try to make it better, but assess yourself in diet, particularly if you want to be healthy. Diet is the foundation. I mean, if you could only choose between diet, stretching, cardio, or lifting weights, diet is going to be the thing. You walk around, you can do stuff, but don't leave out assessing your diet. And then incorporate all the other parts of exercise and don't leave out stretching. And I think you'll be on a good path.
And as people think about diet, I hope that at a minimum, anybody listening will walk away saying, okay, there's a lifetime's journey here and I don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
I can start by maybe a little bit less meat, a little more vegetables, a little less sugar, or whatever it is, wherever you feel to start. Like maybe just choose one of those areas and start somewhere. And then you'll start to notice I feel a little bit better. And then you layer onto that and you start your journey.
Yeah. It's those tiny steps, right? Make changes every day as best you can. And you'll find your way.
Well, this has been fun to you have both directly and indirectly impacted our family because of your friendship with Lon and Carrie. And so, by extension for 15 years or something, we've been influenced by some of your thinking and research and things that you've shared.
Did you know your parents were some of my first patients?
No.
Yeah.
I knew that they were patients. I didn't know they were that early though.
They were probably in the first year that I was in practice.
Okay.
So I've known your family for a long time and kind of followed you even as a patient when you're married into the Hendersons. And it's been fun.
Yeah. I know my dad had surgery, on his back a bunch of times and relied on you to help him. And then when I injured my back again, like I said earlier, they knew where to send me.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Anyway, this is fun. I hope that people will leave this motivated to try something.
Yeah. Do something, do anything.
And
research it.
Research it. I loved the tip you gave as well about Dr. Michael Greger's nutritionfacts.org site. Like that is just a treasure trove.
Yeah.
Of information.
If somebody can find something as good that has the research and well thought out, I want to know about it. But that's the best I found. Seriously.
We ought to link that maybe, and we'll link that in as we release this podcast, because even when my dad passed of cancer, and we were dealing with that, and I found so much helpful information on nutritionfacts.org that was well researched on different things that might help with different parts of that whole experience, and it's just a really great resource. Yeah. That was a good tip.
There's another one I like is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. It's all kind of the same lines, but really good information if anybody wants to look into that.
We'll link that one as well. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for all you do to support this effort to make nutrition more available to people, and for a lifetime devoted to figuring out how to best do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. And we're excited. We want to change lives for the better, and we have a path, right?
Yep. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please join us again for another episode of Core Conversations of the Future. In the meantime, You can check out what we're doing at getcore7.com. And as always, feel free to email us with questions if you're curious about the product. If you want to try it, send us a note and we'll reach out, and we'd love to have you come on this journey with us. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you.
Unlock your innate abilities for health. Core conversations. Core conversations.